Hello and welcome back to AR-77. Today is my absolute pleasure to present to you the Schofield Revolver by ASG. This is a .177 caliber pellet shooting, CO2 powered, single action, shell loading, top break revolver. ASG Action Sport Games make a number of great replicas. They do the Dan Wesson range. They also make a variety of CZs or CZs, if you will, and they're all pretty good quality. And this is no different. This is a really nice gun. Pretty much all metal, apart from the grips here, which are kind of faux wood and quite good quality faux wood, actually. Looking at it on the camera here, you'd be hard pushed to know if that was wood or plastic. Okay, let's have a look at this gun then. This is actually a Smith & Wesson Model 3 Schofield edition. Smith & Wesson Model 3s were around or produced from about 1870, I think, till about 1915, which mean they predate the more famous single-action Army revolver by Colt. If you've played Red Dead Redemption, you will know that Dutch van der Linde, the volunteer for our opening quote, carries two of these, and at the start of the game, our protagonist Arthur Morgan, he carries the Peacemaker. So I guess the big question is, are you a Dutch fan or are you an Arthur fan? That might sway you when you're going to buy one of these guns. So these were produced in several variations, including this Schofield model, named after Major George Wheeler Schofield, who was a cavalryman, I believe, cavalryman in the American Civil War. He made his own modifications based on that, because he noticed that the initial kind of latch, as I said before, this is top break revolver. Initially the latch to open it was on the top of the frame there, and he said, well, actually, if you're on horseback, it would be easier to have it there, and then you could just flick the gun open like that, change your rounds while holding onto your reins, and it's a more convenient method, specifically if you're on horseback. So they made a few variations down at Smith & Wesson, and they named this generation the Schofield. Other notable reported owners include Jesse James, Virgil Earp, Billy the Kid, and Pat Garrett. The list goes on. This is a very, very well-used gun. So let's have a look at the Airgun version. As I say, this is a .177 pellet version. Let's go right to the front. What I do like about this, first of all, is this almost kind of weathered, dulled, kind of grey finish to it. You've got a bit of wear and tear there. It all looks really nice. Looks like it's been used. Looks like it's been dug up out of the ground or something at some point. A nice recessed barrel there. You can see your inner barrel at that point, and you've got this lovely kind of fluting down the length of the barrel there. It is a big gun. It's quite a classy shape, so it doesn't initially feel as doesn't feel as big as it is. That's a strange thing to say. When I first looked at it, I thought, oh, it's smaller than I expected. That's what she said. But if you compare it to the 629 Smith & Wesson, you can see that it is comparable in size and length to the 629. So there's not a great big difference actually there. So it's a big gun. As we come down here, we get to that kind of mechanism here, which that kind of acts as your sights as well. You've got that front post there and a really quite narrow notch there. It's quite good though. I've noticed that you've got this kind of this groove, this channel down the barrel, and as you're coming onto sight, you almost can use that as a kind of a guide just to bring you down, so that you're right in the middle of that. It all kind of almost serves as a guide. I don't know if that's intentional or really what that's for, whether it's design or whether there's a reason for it. You've got obviously your big kind of pivot point here. Bit of a nice little bit of writing here. Schofield. I don't know if that's his actual handwriting or what, but it's a nice little touch. Very subtle markings on this. You've got a bit of a serial number there. You've got the Schofield there. On the other side, a bit of caliber information, but again, it's not too intrusive actually. Let me take things in the right order, shall we? So you can open the barrel like that, And as you do it, similar to the kind of the Webley mechanism, although obviously this came first, it exposes your shells like that. And you can take your shells out, reload them. What I do find is it's quite useful because of this. Just leave the shells in and just put your pellets in the back there, and it perhaps speed things up. But a lovely mechanism, and the temptation is just to flick this shut. It is quite, as you can see, it's quite a solid kind of latch. But I don't know, for now, I'm just going to try and be a bit more careful with it than flicking it shut, because I don't want anything to wear down or anything like that. You do have your hammer here. There's no CO2 in this gun, as you can see. It wasn't loaded with pellets. That rotates your cylinder and then releases it, and it's a nice smooth action. Feels really nice. Almost as nice, but not quite as satisfying as the sound of the single action, which I could do that all day. That ratcheting just does it for me. But it's quite nice on the Schofield as well. Just kind of two there. Very nice. Then we come back, and as I say, we've got this safety here. Again, not really too intrusive. I don't think you need that really. I get why it's there. I get it. But really, if you know what you're doing with these things, you shouldn't have to rely on that. But and if people say, well, what if I leave it lying around and I've got kids? Well, then don't do that. Don't leave it lying around if you've got kids around. Put it away, or keep hold of it. But that's easy enough to use. You just push it forward, and you can't cock the gun at all. Pull it back, and you can. So that's pretty good, pretty straightforward, I suppose. If you're going to have one, no better place, I guess, than to have it just there, just at the top of the grip here. The grip, we look like we've got a screw in there. It looks like it all looks very authentic. The only criticism I have, if this is a criticism, would be, you've got that date stamp there, 1877, would be this ASG marking here. I guess, they did make the gun, so credit where it's due, but I just wish it perhaps didn't have that marking there, so it looked a bit more authentic. And as you can see, it's very similar to how a lot of these guns work. You just have this kind of thumb notch here, which allows you to take the side grip off there, and it's really good. You have this kind of Allen key here to tighten up your CO2. Everything's held together, no separate Allen key or hex key or whatever. Stick your CO2 bulb in there and put that back together. What I will say is this is a very tight fitting kind of grip. It's really, really good in that it's got the notch at the top there that has to go in there, but it also has this kind of clip here, similar to you'll see on like the Umrex, like the 92 FS and the CP88, the Walther. They have these kind of metal clips, and it just holds things in there a little bit tighter. And you can hear that goes on there with a nice satisfying click. It's not loose, it's not rattly, it's not wobbly. So I think that's a really good design. Let me just double check on the single action Army. Let's see, because obviously it's a similar method. But yeah, they don't... Oh yeah, it does. It's exactly the same pretty much, yeah. It does have that clip. Although it just doesn't feel... I mean, that's solid. That is solid on there, but this feels tighter somehow. Am I splitting hairs? Yeah, I think I probably am. Oh, man. Okay, before I get carried away. Okay, let me tell you about what I like about it. Did I finish the walk around? I think I did. Pretty straightforward trigger guard there. Single action only trigger. Other side, pretty much similar fare. Yeah, I think I've covered that. Nice bit of grip on the hammer there, just to mention. Yeah, let me tell you some details then about this gun. In terms of shooting it, obviously because it's a non-blowback, I shouldn't have to say that, but it's a non-blowback, it's a revolver, and you've only got 6 rounds in here at a time. What you notice is you will get a lot of CO2 use. from just one bulb. I got well over 70 rounds from this gun. I reloaded 12, 13, 14 times. I got well over 70 rounds before I started noticing any dip in accuracy. It was really, really good use of CO2. And you kind of think, oh, surely this next 6 rounds, it'll start dipping off. And it just didn't. It just kept going and going and going. Fairly accurate. As accurate as you'd expect. Of course, it is a pellet gun. It's a pellet pistol, so it does have a rifled barrel, and you can expect greater accuracy from that than you can from this particular one, because this is just the BB version. I say just the BB version. It's still a lovely replica. It's still a great gun. Just shoots 4.5mm BBs rather than pellets like the Schofield does. Yep, easy to load pellets, easy to load shells, I should say. Let's look at the shells actually while we're here, because what I thought was, well, it's ASG. I wonder if I can save myself some money and spare shells by just getting some shells that I use for my other guns. I've got my little ammo box there. Now these shells, well, first of all, let me compare it to the ones from the Single Action Army. So this is an Umarex product, obviously. Let me bring one of these out without dropping it. There you go, clever boy. So slightly different, obviously, because it's a BB shell. But you can see similar fare, all metal. Both of these, all metal. You've got a little bit of a, if I can focus, a little bit of a kind of a groove around the end of there, imitating, I guess, the bullet portion of the gun rather than the brass case itself. Not so with the Umarex. You'll also notice that the Umarex is slightly longer, and I believe that's true also of the real steel. When these first came out, I think Schofields were initially chambered in 44, I think, and then they brought out a 45 as well. But I don't know if it was just because Smith & Wesson versus Colt and they had to be different, but the shells were slightly shorter, so that you couldn't load Colt ammunition into the Smith & Wesson. So even before, there were things like iPhones and things using proprietary leads and things like that just to make a bit more money. Smith & Wesson and Colt were doing the same thing. But this is an ASG product, so like I said, I wondered if these shells might fit as well. These are from the, well, these silver ones, I think, are from my, let me get it right. Yeah, they're from the Umarex, so go figure, Legends S25 and S40, they fit. I think these gold ones are from my Dan Wesson 715, and they are the same in all but colour and finish. So all these work in the Dan Wesson. They also work in the S25 and S40, but as you can see, they're slightly longer as well. It's a slightly different shell. So I haven't tried them. I mean, I don't think these would fit in the Schofield. Well, let's do it, shall we? Let's rock and roll. Let's give it a go. So here we go. Let's pop that in there. And as you can see, no, it's too long. It protrudes. Now, what I happen to have is a couple of other guns around here. What did I just do then? I said I wasn't going to do it, and I just went like that. I don't think I'm going to break it. I've got my Dan Wesson 715, 4-inch here. Let's have a look at this. Let's see then if the Remington will fit in here, which of course it does, because it's shorter. I don't know if it's going to affect accuracy or anything. I haven't shot it out of there. So I guess it's up to you. If it's your gun, you can play with it, can't you? If it's mine, I might choose not to. I'm not too fussed about doing that. So yeah, I will probably buy some more of these, some spare shells for the Schofield, because 6 rounds go really quick when you're having fun. So there you go. Let's pop that in there. They're all ready to go. Look at that. What a lovely picture. all full of pellets, all ready to go. Take that out of the way. What else can I tell you about this gun? Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. Yeah, let me just put this shell back in. I was always under the impression that Smith & Wesson cylinders rotated counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, like on the 629 here. If I pull that hammer back, you'll see the cylinder rotates anti-clockwise, counterclockwise, whichever, depending where you live. Different to the Colt, which rotates clockwise, as you can see. Clockwise, anti-clockwise. Now, my Dan Wesson goes clockwise also. Let me have a look here, my Legends S25 goes anti-clockwise, similar to the Smith & Wesson. So I'm a bit confused as to why, if this is a Smith & Wesson Model 3, why does this go clockwise like the Colt rather than anti-clockwise, where is it, like the other Smith & Wesson? Now, it might just be that at that time in history, that wasn't a thing, that wasn't a consideration. They weren't trying to do things differently. It might be about patents. But one of you must know why this cylinder goes around clockwise rather than the more traditional Smith & Wesson way of going anti-clockwise. It might be because also this is a single action gun. It might be something to do with the fact that it's single action and the cylinder doesn't need to swing out, so it could be a mechanism thing like that. I'm not sure. But one of you will know. I'm looking at you, CO2 handgunner. So please do get in touch in the comments and educate me, if you wouldn't mind. When I loaded the CO2 into the Schofield, what I will say is I did use a bit of oil on the top of the bulb, but there was no hissing at all. It was a nice tight fit, and it went together very nicely indeed. There was no wasted air when I gassed this gun up, so I was pleased with that. I'm always pleased with that. There's always a kind of pang of fear when I first put CO2 into any gun that is new to me, that I go, oh, please don't be a dodgy seal or anything like that. No such problem in this case. So, back to that initial question. Are you an Arthur Morgan fan or are you a Dutch van der Linde fan? I would say yin and yang. You need both of these in your collection, especially if you like your kind of classic replicas, especially if you like revolvers. The Schofield, the Smith & Wesson Model 3 by ASG is a really, really good gun. Really solidly built, nice and accurate, decent power, and a very good reproduction of a classic firearm from history. You should be able to pick one of these up for between 150 and 200 quid, somewhere within that zone. Maybe a bit more for the pellet version, maybe 170, 180, and you can probably look at knocking about a tenner off that for the BB version usually. Have a look, get one in your hands. Speaking of hands, I should say that's quite a big travel for your thumb. So you want to be right up on there when you're cocking it. You want to be right up. Just something that occurred to me. If you've got bigger hands, you won't struggle, but mine are probably medium to small, and it's quite a stretch for my thumb. I guess it's a better firing position, to be honest, a bit closer up there anyway. Yeah, you won't struggle with it, but it's worth mentioning. Great, yeah, have a look, get one in your hands, try one out, and add one to your collection if you're fortunate enough to be able to do that. Thank you very much for your time. As always, take care, stay safe, all the best. Bye.